I've always felt jealous of people who have never had to really question their sexuality. Well, maybe they weren't ready to admit what their sexuality was and they weren't ready to tell others, but they were able to tell themselves. Because for me, understanding who I am, understanding what I'm attracted to, understanding my connection to sex and other people has been a long and very tumultuous journey. It took me a long time. In fact, I would probably even say I'm still on the journey of coming to understand what makes me tick, what turns me on, who turns me on, how, what, when, where, and all of the above. So today I thought we'd talk a little bit more about coming to understand ourselves in our totality and coming to accept whatever it is we find. So hey, nice to meet you. If we haven't met before, my name is Kalyn. I'm an ecstatic spiritual coach. I help people come home to themselves. I help them to find an integrated place that owns their spiritual side, their sexual side, their masculine gender side, and find a place of belonging within. I've written a couple books and I host this YouTube channel, Ecstatic where we explore these things in depth. So a little bit more about me. Maybe you've seen some of my other videos where I talk about this, maybe you haven't, but I was 25 when I finally came out to the world, but more importantly to myself. Up until that point, I had kind of foregone all the normal maturation experiences of dating and kissing and exploring another person's body. I was so deeply ashamed and deeply afraid of sex and intimacy and connection and generally just feeling like I was worthless that I had never allowed myself to open up that door. But let's go back. Let's go way back. When I was a little kid, probably around ages 6 or 7, I knew that there was something different about me. I knew that I didn't fit in with the other boys. I would see them enacting the tropes of masculinity and what was expected of other boys. Play sports, to roughhouse, to be mean to each other, to torture crickets on the blacktop. And I would stare at them and think they were aliens. I'd be like, what the fuck are these people? I just so keenly remember at a young age just recognizing I was different in a way that I couldn't articulate from other people. And around that same age, I started to explore sexual touch with myself. I started to masturbate. And one of the objects of fascination for me was in masculine bodies. So I was very curious about muscularity. I was very curious about penises. One of the first time I can ever remember jacking off was in relation to getting a Happy Meal toy of a bodybuilder and thinking that that was so erotic and sensual. I can remember in, I think, first grade asking like the good artist in our classroom, Justin, if he would be willing to do a drawing of the evil genie Jafar from Aladdin when he gets super muscular after getting his genie powers. And I can remember shortly thereafter pleading with God at night, please don't let me be gay, please don't let me be gay, please don't let me be gay, because even though I grew up in a family that wasn't necessarily homophobic outwardly, like they weren't bashing gay people, I already picked up the message that being gay was not good, or at least it was less good than being straight. And like so many gay boys, wanted to be the best little boy in the world, wanted to be the best version possible, be the smartest and the brightest and the most talented in order to feel safer, in order to feel like my love wasn't going to be taken away from me because I was different. And I recognized that being same-sex attracted, even at that early age, was something that could risk my feeling of safety. And so I kind of buried that awareness of my same-sex attraction to myself. And this is where it gets complicated. If you had asked me as a young person, pre-puberty, entering puberty, are you attracted to men? I would have emphatically and have genuinely meant it when I said, no, I'm not. I just want to look like them. And the truth was, I never once fantasized about kissing another guy or having sex with another guy. Like that idea, even when I came to understand what it meant, I would just imagine myself being those guys, imagine myself with bigger muscles and a bigger dick, and I would draw these hugely muscular men with penises reaching their knees because that just imagining myself being that way just like turned me on. And in many ways I'm confident it was a response to my own feelings of not being man enough, of not being masculine enough, of not fitting in with the tropes of what the society I grew up in said this is what being a man is. I'm currently reading the actor Justin Baldoni's book Man Enough, and he's straight and he was a good athlete, and so he was able to fit into those tropes as a kid. He was able to be initiated into the cult of manhood, but I couldn't, and I wouldn't, right? I stood outside and didn't want to be a part in it, but I also knew that I couldn't be even if I wanted. And so I think a big part of that fascination with becoming more masculine was to make myself feel safer. This idea that if I become the biggest and the most visibly masculine person in the room, then I won't be tortured anymore. Because I was relentlessly tortured. In the cult of masculinity, you have to beat down others who are not as masculine as you, not as alpha as you. And I was routinely seen as being the bottom rung of the ladder in every social structure I entered. So constantly and relentlessly, my peers let me know how worthless I was, how unvaluable I was, how unlovable I was. I had to sit alone at lunch. I was never picked for a team in gym class. I would get things thrown at me constantly as I walked down the hallways, names thrown at me, mean things thrown into my locker. I never felt beautiful or desirable or sexy. And so all of this kind of coagulated together to make me very tense around my sexuality. And as I entered an age where other boys started experimenting and playing and opening up to their attraction with other people, I just shut whatever there was within me down tighter and tighter and tighter. I started to think maybe I wasn't even attracted to other people. Like, yeah, there'd be images on the computer screen that would turn me on, but in real life, I didn't think I was attracted to anybody. Now, of course, I can look back in hindsight and say, well, you were getting butterflies with this guy, or you couldn't stop staring at this person, or this person made you feel a certain way. So there was attraction there. But this interesting thing happens in our mind is when we are so wounded, when we are so disconnected from our pain in an effort to just not suffer anymore, we begin to not realize what we're feeling or how we're feeling or why we're feeling it. For all intents and purposes, we believe it doesn't exist. So somebody who has really severe anger issues may not even be aware that they're angry, that they're so blocked to the perception of anger that they don't even know that they're doing it. So as I moved into later high school and college, I started to think, well, maybe I'm just asexual. Maybe I'm just not attracted to anybody. I remember hearing stories about sexual awakening being a little bit like a tooth fairy showing up or a sexy fairy showing up and granting you sexual desire, that one day you'll just wake up and boom, I notice girls and they're sexy. And I kept thinking maybe one day I'll just wake up and boom, girls will be sexy to me. And what made it even all the more confusing was occasionally, rare occasion, they would be. Like, even to this day, like, I think vaginas are beautiful. They will sometimes turn me on. On occasion, I'll think boobs are really sexy, but it's far and few between. The number of women I've felt genuinely sexually turned on by in my life I could probably count on one hand. And they're all women that I felt safe with and loved by and cared by, people I had intimate relationships with. And then to compound the difficulty, post-college I moved into an ashram, a yogic community, where I was expected to be meditating and doing selfless service all day long, and I couldn't sleep over at someone's house, and I couldn't go out to a bar, and so it kind of, self-selectedly removed me, like I chose to remove me from an environment where I might be open to exploring my sexuality. And I'll just point out, at this time, I was trying to be an actor. Like, how are you supposed to be an actor whose job is to convey meaningful, intimate relationships on stage or on screen when I myself was completely cut off in my personal life from being able to do it? How am I supposed to convey love and attraction and connection when it's something I am terrified of experiencing in my personal life? And I look back now and realize, why was my acting career so hard? Well, because you were completely shut down inside. Now, thankfully, one of the things that really worked for me was the fact I was meditating, and it's part of the reason I encourage all of my clients to start meditating, and it's part of the work I do with them is because, and why I offer this 6 p.m. meditation class every Sunday here on YouTube, is it allows us to step outside of our experience and look at our life from a different angle. It allows our brain to start to heal and create new patterns and see things from different vantages, and it allowed me to start to see myself in a different enough way that this wall that I had erected around myself began to crack and light began to shine through. And I began to ask myself questions, and I began to open up to opportunities. One of the members of my cohort at the Second City was a straight pickup artist, and he was like, hey, I want to help you get laid. I want to help you figure this out. And so he gave me some encouragement, not that I ever did it, but he gave me some encouragement and pep talked me into going for it. I tried seducing one of my roommates, who incidentally now is a trans man, but back then was a cisgendered woman, and it was okay. But after that was done, she was like, hey, I'm going to set you up with an online dating profile on OkCupid. I'm going to list you as bisexual, and I'm setting you up on a few dates. I want you to just go try it. And thankfully, I was at a point where I was ready. 25 years old, just turned 25. I started going on first dates. I think I went on something like 90 first dates that first year. First, both with men and women, gradually was just more men. I can remember one of the women I went on a date with, we were at her apartment, and she looked at me and was like, I can't believe you've never made out with a woman. Like, there's no way. And then she climbed up onto my lap and started kissing me and then pulled back, got off my lap, and was like, nope, all right, I believe it. But even going through those experiences, I was still so fucking confused in my own head that, my birthday's in July, that come April, so months later, I have to sit down and write myself a letter and start to chronicle every sexual thought or feeling or experience I'd ever had in my life. And when I got to the letter, I looked back and said, well, more than 9 out of 10 of these experiences are oriented towards men. I therefore must be gay. Like, it took that logical of information presented to me to get me out of my fucking box, to be able to see myself as I really was. And that same day, I believe it was Easter Sunday, I made a post publicly on Facebook saying, I'm coming to realize that I'm gay and I'm having a hard time accepting it. Any support and love would be appreciated. And hundreds of messages came in from people I didn't even know, and all of them were kind and all of them were loving. I would shortly thereafter go on to have my first boyfriend, and about 2 years after that meet the wonderful man that is now my husband. And over these years I've fluctuated with different labels for myself: gay, bisexual, omnisexual, pansexual. Mostly I just use gay because, most of the time it's what I'm sexually attracted to. But even that isn't fully encompassing, because still in my life, most of the time I'd rather masturbate than have sex with somebody else. Like, I'm really attracted to my husband, but I've come to realize as I've gone on further sexual exploration, most of the time that I wanted to have sex with other people wasn't because I really wanted to connect with them. It was because I wanted validation. I wanted them to approve of me. I wanted them to tell me I was sexy and desirable. I just wanted to know that they were into me, because growing up, I didn't think anybody was. I felt worthless. In college, I did ask out 3 women. One laughed in my face, the other stood me up, and the third said yes, but then the next day said she was drunk, didn't remember I asked her to have a boyfriend, so fuck you. I was surprised at 25 when I started dating that people found me attractive in any way, because I didn't know it. Even in my work as an actor, I would go on audition after audition and not book things, and my agent would send me out on modeling calls with these gorgeous people, and again, really never be booking things. I didn't know that I was worth much, and I wanted other people's attraction to teach me that. And that's a whole other video in and of itself, about learning self-worth, both through the approval of others, but also independent of the approval of others. To learn that I am enough, that I am enough, has been one of the biggest through lines of my whole life, and one of the biggest adventures, that understanding that me or maybe anybody could ever go on. Because we live in a culture where our masculinity is constantly threatened. We're told we're not man enough, we're not fit enough, we don't make enough money, we don't have enough sexual partners, we blah 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 blah. And this idea that masculinity isn't just something that's given to you, it's something that has to be proved. This is all the stuff that makes me tick, and why I have this YouTube channel, is to digest this stuff and share this stuff with you all, for whom hopefully you find this valuable. But long story short, I didn't know I was gay. It took me a long time to figure out, and I'm so grateful that I eventually did, because life is so much better now that I openly and enthusiastically share my true identity. Because my husband, hands down, is the best thing that has ever happened to me in my life. He has been the greatest gift, and I tell him that every single day, because my life is 1,000 times better for having him. And what would it have been like had I never opened up to that? I am so beyond blessed to have that amazing person in my life. So I am deeply grateful to now know that I am queer, that I am gay, that I do love my husband, and I enjoy a beautiful, intimate, passionate sex life with him, and to know that however I am enough. And thank you for listening today.